Now, next, I would like to welcome to the stage Laura Piispanen from Aalto University, who will be talking about quantum games. So, Laura, stage is yours.
Thank you. And thank you, Natasha, for bringing me here along all of you. So, hi, my name is Laura Piispanen. I'm a quantum physicist. Thank you. My background is in theoretical physics, in quantum foundations, and somehow I have been dragged along to this world of games as well, and I'm really I owe gratitude to a lot of people for that. So I'm doing my PhD at Aalto University in the School of Sciences between the departments of computer science and applied physics. So I'm going to tell you what I mean by all this quantum stuff and to what games I'm referencing to. And we'll take a little sneak peek to the history of games, basically on computers. I'm going to touch the term science games here because I want to clarify something that I feel it's a bit wrong related to it. And then we'll go and see what kinds of quantum games there are and what has been done. Yeah. So maybe then I'll also introduce some dimensions of these quantum games that we have, provide a definition using this, and have a little discussion as well. So, quantum what? Before we go to that, I want to introduce this game. We have Julia Ressa on the other stage talking at this very moment. She's behind all these pretty graphics. This is the first quantum game that I've been part of creating. I was working as the physicist behind this game. It's called Hamster Wave from 2019. From a quantum game jam. So this over the weekend event where we brought together physicists, game developers, artists, all kinds of talents. And in this game in particular, the hamster references to this tiny little hamster there, inside a hamster ball, trying to escape from a shark. You couldn't see in the picture though. You can see its nose, maybe. And your mission in this game is to control, using the hands there, the shape of this wave. And then helping the hamster to safety, basically. So, quantum. What is quantum physics? I'm getting giving you a short, real introduction to this. So after this talk, you're able to go and say, yeah, I know what quantum physics is. So quantum physics is a theory that describes the most fundamental laws of all physics anywhere, ever. So starting from the phenomena and actions and how protons behave, small atoms, electrons. You might have seen pictures like this in school books or something like that. But also particles of light, so we call them photons, or even things that are smaller than these things. It describes the phenomena that we cannot witness in our everyday life. This is an artistic representation of entanglement. Is this going by itself? By Noora Heiskanen. So entanglement is something that you have two quantum objects or more acting intrinsically together, no matter how far apart they are from each other. And when we have one here, and my friend might have one of the other in Mars, for example, if I do little measurements on the one that I have here, referring to the results that I have from that, I know that my friend over there has the other particle saying something in particular. So you can imagine what this brings to you in terms of communication with someone from far away. Quantum physics tells us that these quantum objects, we should treat them both as particles and as waves. We call it wave-particle duality. Here's a little video of these tiny little particles acting separately. You can see from there that we are lowering the temperature. The particles slow down slowly until instead of acting like separate particles, so I'm ruining this for you, they are starting to act together in a way. So instead of these tiny point-like particle structures, they start acting together in a wave-like manner. And this is actually exactly what is happening and what we are researching and hoping to research with some of these games. So the wave in the hamster wave game, it basically simulates this phenomena and something that we want to use this to control that in order to develop quantum technologies. So here are a couple of, like a picture and an illustration of a cryostat. So basically a really, really cool fridge. It takes things to really, really low temperatures. So quantum technologies, they bring us something like using these phenomena that I really shortly mentioned, we could use them to operate with information in a much different way than we do in our normal computers. Well, starting with our computers don't look like this. So this is the fridge, and the quantum is happening here at the end of it. It's only a tiny part of it. We need something big to cool down something really small in order to witness these phenomena. So this is, for example, a quantum chip. So there's a circuit of certain kind. And using these circuits, we can create something you might have heard, quantum bits, so qubits. It could be a circuit like this. It could be light used in a specific way. It could also be protons that we interact with using magnetic fields, for example. So quantum bit, what is spectacular about it is that instead of just giving us the regular 1 and 0, it gives us also something in between, kind of like the whole surface of this ball, instead of just the poles of it. But let's go back to the history of computers. It didn't take long for the first games to be created for the first computers that were also huge, by the way, bigger than our cryostats at the moment. So here's a picture of Birdie the Brain from 1950, was created in Toronto. And then a couple of years ago, OXO, developed for studying human-computer interactions. So the first games, they just had like tic-tac-toe basically on them. So we had like these huge big computers, but we just demonstrated their abilities using existing fancy like games on this fancy new technology to demonstrate what it means to do algorithms or computing or anything like that. It took a while for the first games to be produced only for pure entertainment. And then it took a little while to get the first games that showed us what these computers can actually do for games. So not the other way around, basically. So for our purpose, we're just going to say that games are any playful creations from now on. I just want to capture kind of like the variety of quantum games we have had. Like there are a lot of academic categories that you might have and a lot of ways to describe certain types of games and give names to them. And like I said, I want to say something about science games, because most of them, if you go and just search, do a really quick search on them, you find these educational games that are basically on natural sciences, mostly aimed at kids. But I want to point out something that Magnussen pointed out, that there are also other goals, like games can give goals for training people, in particular for these new quantum fields and quantum industries looking for new people, so training new people to learn about quantum physics, or other goals for that matter. She lists many of them. But maybe also other science fields, not just natural sciences. So I would suggest that we use this term of science games, describing games that contribute to scientific work, either directly, such as helping to solve research questions, or indirectly, such as building awareness or teaching a scientific topic, for example. If we used just this for quantum games, we wouldn't capture all the games. So this is why I'm not using this to say that quantum games would be a science game about quantum physics. It's something more. And just a little note, we wrote a paper about quantum game jams, if you're interested. We used something similar to this to define like science game jams. So this spurs out of that. So, quantum games. Here's again another picture. You can see this electric line over here going. It basically runs the same simulation I introduced earlier. So there have been a couple of these citizen science game prototypes. So meaning that we were hoping to create a game that would run a simulation related to our research and then hand it out to players that don't necessarily know what quantum physics is, and it wouldn't be a requirement for them to play the game and still solve the problem or help us create better algorithms to solve the problems. So this particular game, Quiz, it was developed together with Mytel company back in Turku. I just wanted to point out, like, also my route to quantum games was through this very serious means. But I wanted to know what else there is. So I started collecting all these games that somehow reference quantum physics, or they have, or they claim to be like some quantum physics related somehow. So at this moment on my list, there are 256 games. I know that's not all of them, but it's still like a growing number of games. And like not even half of them are the serious type of games that have a like specific purpose. Like they aren't science games, for example. So why would I call them quantum games then? How do they reference quantum physics, quantum technologies, or quantum information? This was something that I wanted to go and, search on. So we could look at these games through their motivations behind them, like starting from these serious games. Here's a couple of examples of games that are citizen science games. So gathering information and data from people playing the game and solving problems in the game. Let's see, here, and the video works. So Quantum Move, for example, we have here a presentation out of it. The meaning of this, it was called Bring Home Water to start. I have Shaima Saman here who did her PhD related to working with this game, introduces the game. The aim is to grab a particle that we describe with this wave-like visualization here and find an optimal way of taking it from left to right, basically, on that one. Yes, and then I have an example of mechanics. It was developed in Australia. So instead of this wave-like thing that we see often in these games, they use these blocks. And what you're basically, when you're trying to solve this 3D puzzle, you are optimizing quantum algorithms. You just don't necessarily know it, but this is a sped up, so no one is that quick, actually, just to side note. So what else motivations, what else other type of motivations might there be? There have also been games on quantum computers that we could call like quantum computer games. Catbox Scissors was the first one on a IBM quantum computer. You are all able to go online and access these computers. You just need to create this, what's it called? Sign into this system, and do that for IBM explorations. And there was also a battleship. So kind of like for the games on first computers, the aim here was to try and see what can we do with these computers. Like quantum computers are at the really low number at the moment of qubits. We are still working on it, so to say. And maybe games are part of this, like making them better. But all of these games here, they've been mainly made by quantum physicists and research groups. But how can that, there's not that many of them working, not that many of us quantum physicists working on games. So how can there be more than 200, well over 200 quantum games there? And I'll tell you why. Since 2014, our research group from Turku University collaborated together with Finnish Game Jam Association and started arranging these yearly annual events of quantum game jams. So the aim was originally to find prototypes for these serious types of games. But something that I was particularly really happy about is that there are so many other types of games that have emerged. Usually we aimed at having at least one physicist on each team, but we wouldn't necessarily always have that. We would still get these amazing games using our tools that we had provided, all the information about quantum physics that we have provided. And that has somehow inspired people to create games. And again, giving a reference to this article of when we went through the first quantum games ever. We have since then turned online. So Natasha and I, for example, we've been organizing quantum game jams so that anyone, anywhere could join our event. So how would I define then quantum games if it's not just these serious games that have a scientific purpose? we wrote a little article about this. I collaborated together with 2 people from IBM. So James Wooten, he has a similar background than I do, working originally on quantum foundations. Marcel Pfaffhauser is a computer scientist. And then there's Anna-Kaisa Kultima, who's a game scholar at Aalto University, also my PhD advisor. So going through all these games, we kind of like found these rough 3 aspects, how these games somehow relate to quantum physics. So any perceivable quantum physics themes, the scientific purposes, or the use of quantum technologies. And I want to give little examples related to that. So the perceivable here would mean that if you play the game, you read the rules, or like you read their web page, for example, on it's.io, where it has been published, and it says that it's somehow related to quantum physics. So we count that as being perceivable somehow of the game itself. So here's a first example. This is an old version of this game with photons, quantumgame.io, but this is more of a resemblance of what we have happening in our lab for the first year courses of quantum physics, for example, when we test out lasers and different tools that we have on our laser board. It's a direct reference to this, but it gives a way to simulate together with gamified aspects about these tools, and maybe while you play it, you also, and while you try to solve the little puzzles, you learn how these things work. Maybe you learn what quantum physics is more about. And please go and check, because the newest version looks really cool. And it's really fancy. Even if you just love puzzle games, you wouldn't necessarily have to learn too much about quantum physics. There's no test necessarily at the end, but it's a really fun game. So there are quantum concepts there being visualized through a simulation that is running on the background. There are a lot of games that only inspire from quantum physics. And I'm saying only just because it might not be like more than that. There might not be a simulation in the background or anything like that. But here, for example, this inspires from the act of entanglement, 2 things acting together. Sometimes characters having two selves on the screen might refer to quantum superposition. So a particle having several different waves of being in a way. Might be both 0 and 1 at the same time, for example. So there are a lot of games that inspire from quantum physics. The game mechanics or the rules might follow quantum mechanical principles. So here is a basic tic-tac-toe again. But there are certain new ways of playing it. You can entangle your crosses and your knots, or you can do a measurement on them. Something in particular of quantum physics is that when you go and look at it, it actually changes. And if you then don't look at it anymore, it continues evolving in its own way. What do I have next? Oh, again, I'm bringing the hamster wave back because I like it so much. I hope you find it somewhere and try and give it a go. You cannot play it online at the moment, but there are videos at least. So here you can see the wave that you're using and frantically trying to save the hamster. And I assure you it can be done. We made the game so that you can actually like save the hamster, although it looks really scary at start. But here, like, this is the only reference to quantum physics. You can see the wave, and you wouldn't necessarily know that it's related to quantum physics unless you read the page related to it. So there's no quantum sharks anywhere. It's just a regular shark, a regular game shark, so to say. There are also games that only have like their story references to quantum physics, or it might reference to the history of quantum physics. We had one of these games created, and it was an amazing game on our quantum games course at Aalto University. So if you go and play through the game, it has amazing visuals, and you learn about the history, how these people acted back in the day. So we already touched the scientific purposes a bit. There might be educational games, citizen science games, so either games for producing and collecting data, or game creating the data once you try to solve the puzzle in the game. And also gamification of training, things like that. And the use of quantum technologies, what is that then? So here's an example of Qubit the Barbarian, also from 2019 Quantum Game Jam. So this game is running on a quantum computer. Not completely, you cannot create graphics on quantum computers, but like it's calling one of the IBM quantum computers when it's creating their maze structure here. So quantum computers are able to generate a whole different world of randomness, so to say, in a whole new level. But there's also like a way of, if you cannot connect to the quantum computers, they offer these packets called Qiskit that you can simulate a quantum computer locally on your computer. So this is happening in some of the games. Usually they are creating mazes or platforms or something like this. So 3 aspects, and if we just put them slightly in a closer note. So there might be a perceivable dimension of quantum physics, something perceivable through the game about quantum physics. There might be a scientific purpose behind the game. And we would count even if the game is a prototype. Like if there was an aim for a scientific purpose, I would then say it had a scientific purpose of a dimension of it. Or it might be used in any quantum technologies. So using these, I would define a game as games, quantum game as games that reference the theory of quantum physics, quantum technologies, or quantum computing through the perceivable means. They might connect quantum physics through a scientific purpose, or they might use quantum technologies. And first and foremost, I would like to kind of like open up a discussion in a way if someone else has something to, point, like they don't agree with something. That's always the start of a discussion. But something in particular that is interesting are the games at the outlines of these dimensions. So, for example, you might have heard of Quantum Break in 2016. It has no scientific purpose behind it. It's not running on any quantum technologies or anything like that. But it has like story references. Some of the actions in the game, like this quantum leap, for example, they're reference to quantum physics. And not just out of imaginary reasons, they were actually consulting a quantum physicist during the creation of the game, so Syksy Räsänen. So it might be a discussion. Someone might say, but it doesn't really count as a quantum game. But why wouldn't? It might, I don't know, maybe inspires you to be a cool quantum physicist, like this protagonist here. If this is what we do every day, right? And not all the permutations yet exist. It sounds a bit funny, but I'm referring to these. So to our knowledge, we didn't find a game that would not have any perceivable aspect of quantum physics, but would still have a scientific purpose and would be running on a quantum device, for example. But quantum technologies, they are really novel research at the moment. So it makes sense that if you spend all the time of creating a game on it, you do want to underline kind of like the connection to quantum technologies on it. So there's always something perceivable on the games. But maybe there could be a scientific purpose game that would be a citizen science game that wouldn't show the game being a quantum game, but it might still run on a quantum device, trying to solve something on the device using the player's input, maybe. But there's not yet such a game. Maybe you start creating it after this talk. But how about using these as defining quantum art? So art related to quantum physics, maybe. We created this, what would you say? It's an interface that you go and touch, light-based interface, touch-based interface of Quantum Garden. So that is also running a simulation in the background. It had a meaning of a scientific, aim to create and collect data originally. And together, again, with Mytel, we created this 3D version out of it called the Quantum Playground. But because of COVID, it didn't really hit that hard because you would have to be using all the headsets and such. We have an online version of it as well. And now I'm taking this opportunity to mention that we're building this huge installation. This is just pretty graphics of it, because it's going to be installed in a couple of weeks at the Aalto University campus, called QMOS. It's going to be made out of plywood, and here's a sneak peek out of the cuttings that we have made. So this is referencing directly to quantum physics in the way that I wrote a little tiny simulation, like a numerical simulation of a certain type of a quantum particle in a certain type of environment. I drew a picture using this simulation, so basic Python, nothing more than that. We took the picture, we adjusted kind of like the colors in it, and drew out this certain pattern in it. So it's basically there in the design of this piece. No, I didn't have any more pictures of it. So, but there's a dimension of quantum physics. What types is it? Is it using any quantum technologies? No, well, no, we didn't cut the thing using quantum computers or anything like that, but there's still like this perceivable dimension of it's a direct version of this probability distribution that we use it. So hopefully we can use this piece to start a conversation with people at some point. Might there be further layers to these dimensions? I don't know. I'm hoping someone might come and chat with me about it. But if we look again to the history of computer games themselves. So the third step was having games, giving something for kind of like, or computers giving something for games. What would then this kind of like be in the terms of quantum computer games? So we have games on the existing quantum hardware. We have had quantum game jams that use these technologies. But what would be this step? What would quantum computers give for games? One such particular example would be the game Clay from Mytel, again, 2022. Maybe Natasha can correct me if I put the year wrong. No, it's good. Good, me neither. So what could they give? So something in particular for the structure of the game. So truly unique gaming, like game experiences. You might go and play the game, do exactly the same things you did in the first round, but still get a different game. If it's somehow outsourced, kind of like the pure quantumness of these devices, maybe. There's a wonderful tiny little section on a book called Marriage of Quantum Computing and Interactive Storytelling from Natasha, basically. But that is all. Like, if you somehow come up with a way to create a game that you'd like to connect to quantum physics, I don't know, just contact me or even Natasha for that matter. No, but we have this Discord server. So if you're just mainly interested to see, you can just pop into the Discord server and say hello or see what's been done there. This is also the server where we host our quantum game jams on a yearly basis. So feel welcome and ask questions or act silly or whatever. But thank you.